Hi there, and welcome to this web lecture on behavioral research methods. My name is Peter Ruiten, and today we will be talking about research design. Do you know the difference between independent and dependent variables? What is the relation between the type of question that you ask and the method that you need for answering it? What are different types of research questions anyway? In today's lecture, we will focus on answering these questions, and I will discuss the following topics. First, I will explain the differences between the different types of research questions. Next, I will discuss the differences between independent and dependent variables. After that, we will discuss the concepts of manipulation and randomization, two components that are crucial for experimental research. And finally, we will combine all of this when we discuss different types of research and the criteria that they meet. Let's focus on research questions first. A research question is the question that you ask yourself before you start doing your research. And this research question can be classified in one of three different categories. These categories are qualitative, correlational, and causation. A qualitative research question focuses on answering a question why a certain event occurs. As such, we try to understand what is really going on in a certain situation. A correlational research question focuses on the relation between two different variables. And there you would expect that as one variable increases, another variable would also increase or decrease. With a causational research question, we focus on an effect of one variable on another one. And as such, we can understand a causation between these two different variables. Correlational and causational research questions make use of different types of variables. We call these independent and dependent variables. An independent variable is a feature that we manipulate to produce different conditions. We also call this a vector, and the conditions are then the levels of this vector. A dependent variable is a measured outcome that we do not manipulate in our study. So as such, we only use it as a dependent measure of our manipulation. These variables are very important to understand when we set up different types of research. And there's two other components that you have to know something of as well. These are manipulation and randomization. A manipulation means that we go through a process where we first influence an independent variable, and after that we measure a dependent variable. And this order is very important because if we follow this, then we can draw conclusions based on causality. Randomization means that we are able to randomly assign participants to different conditions or to different levels of our vector. And we will see that this is not always possible. So let me guide you through different types of research and the criteria that they meet. The first one is an experiment. An experiment allows us to draw conclusions based on causality. So here it is important to have a fixed order where we first manipulate the independent variable and then measure the dependent variable. A second type of research is a quasi-experiment. A quasi-experiment is essentially the same as a normal experiment, with the difference that we cannot randomly assign participants to groups. For example, if we want to analyze the effect of having a male or a female teacher on the performance of students, we cannot randomly assign these students to teachers because these students are already in classes. So we can only assign classes to teachers. A third type of research is correlational research. This type of research only investigates relationships between variables. So we cannot make any causal inferences in this type of research. The final type of research is what we call descriptive research. This type of research only examines one variable or one topic. And this is the type of research we often see when we have qualitative research questions. These different types of research all focus on meeting different criteria. Let me put these criteria in a table. In one column, we see the criterion of having a relationship between two different variables. Another criteria is whether or not we make use of a manipulation. And the last criterion is whether or not we make use of a random assignment of participants. As we have seen, in experiment, we make use of all of this. We do test a relationship between variables, we do manipulate our independent variable, and we do make use of randomization. In the quasi-experiment, we also test for the relationship between variables, and we have a manipulation, but we are not able to randomly assign participants to conditions. With correlational research, we again test for a relationship between variables, but we are not able to have a manipulation or randomization. This is because we only look at the relation between variables. We don't manipulate anything. And finally, with descriptive types of research, we don't have any of these criteria. We don't test the relationship between variables, there is no manipulation, and also no randomization. So you see that there are all kinds of different types of research and types of experiments. If you want to know more on the different types of experiments, you can look at the web lecture on quantitative data collection methods. So, to sum up this lecture, we have seen that the choice that you make for a specific research question has a very strong influence on the method that you will use in your research. Next, we have seen that there is a difference between measuring or manipulating a certain variable, where if we measure a variable, this is called a dependent variable, and if we manipulate a variable, this is called an independent variable. And finally, we see that different types of research meet all kinds of different criteria. And that concludes today's lecture on research design. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you again next time.